Hour number 2, McElroy and Cubelic underway right here on Jocks 94.5. Listen on your app. Search Jocks 945 in the App Store. You can download it for free. He joins us at this time each and every week. Thanks to our friends at Craneworks. It's the voice of the Auburn Tigers, Andy Burcham.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah! The big dog's got it.
The voice of the Auburn Tigers, Andy Burcham, on Mac and Cube in the Morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it, the big dog's got it. Now, Andy Burcham.
Andy, always great to have you in on a Tuesday morning. We were discussing the Xavier Chaplin situation with his hearing a little bit earlier in the show. Can you just give us further context as to how this came about and maybe a little more into what the issue actually is?
I cannot get any further into it than what I heard yesterday at the press conference with Coach Freeze. And I think it was the last question, and he was asked specifically about left tackle. And at that point, he talked about the hearing of Xavier and how it has been addressed in practice and moving forward. I hope to be out of practice a couple more times this week, perhaps get a little more idea. And I don't know if it's in a difference in cadence or clapping or something of that nature. But that's the first I had heard of it when he talked about it at the end of his press conference yesterday.
Yeah, we played the clip a little bit earlier, so obviously just didn't know how much more you might know on it.
That's all I know.
Yeah, that's
point.
fine. Yeah. That's fine. In preparation for Georgia this week, offensively, are there things Auburn fans should look for to be a little bit different? Players, more snaps, parts of the offense implemented to a further extent? What are you anticipating may be a little bit different against the Bulldogs?
I think we will see a little more Too-Tall Miller at some point, and we've seen him both at tackle and at guard. Exactly where we see him, if that is the case on Saturday, but I wouldn't be surprised to see number 72 on the field more this week. And perhaps, guys, it is the commitment to the rush that it has been talked about for the last two ball games going into the open week, and continues to be a topic of discussion, I think, in that building. With us on Tiger Talk last night at his press conference, it's obviously a hot topic in anything discussing Auburn football. But I think the commitment to the run game, I don't know if it's a change, but I guess it would be a change over what we've seen the last 2 weeks, especially 2 weeks ago at Texas A&M.
Looking at this team, it's amazing to me the narrative throughout the last 2 weeks since the loss to A&M versus what the realistic expectations were this season. To me, when we went through this practice earlier in the year, Andy, we said 3-2 in the first 5 is about where I expect them. It's what you do from this point forward at home where things will be helpful for the Auburn Tigers that will define this season's success. So I'm not saying it ever feels good to look as bad as they did offensively on third down or as bad as they did in protection the last couple weeks. That never feels good. I get that. But help me understand, like, why has there been this recent disconnect between what realistic expectations were and now all of a sudden people being unsatisfied with exactly where we thought they'd be?
Greg, I can only look at it from this perspective, in the fact, and one of this is a look of it is, I don't know if it's good news, but I mean, Auburn has been in both of these ball games late on the road against what are now top 10 teams in Oklahoma and Texas A&M, and failed to mount any kind of drive with the game on the line after the opponent had taken the lead. And I think that frustrates Auburn fans at this point. So, and now you've got a Georgia team coming in on Saturday night. Should be a great atmosphere at Jordan-Hare Stadium. It's a Georgia team that Auburn hasn't beaten since 2017, October 11th of 2017. Georgia has dominated this series of late, in a series that until the last 20 years or so was literally even, back and forth. I can only speculate as to why that this frustrates the Auburn fans as much as it does, but it has been close in both of these ball games, and yet it has had penalties in both of these games. It has given up sacks in both of these games on the road. I think this ball club is very, very close, and I know some folks don't want to hear that at this point. They want to see the production. They want to see this Auburn ball club win one of these ball games, and that's why I think this Saturday is even more important in the fact that this is the oldest rivalry in the Deep South. It's Auburn and Georgia, which is an enormous rivalry, the second biggest, I think, on this Auburn schedule. It makes this game Saturday even bigger for the Tigers going into Georgia on Saturday night.
I don't think there's any doubts. And when you look at the actual matchup, what parts of it do you feel like there could be real advantages for Auburn when they face this Georgia team at home this weekend?
That's an interesting question because a lot of these, the strengths of these two teams are very similar, I believe, in the fact that both of these teams play very, very well against the rush. Georgia's giving up 82 yards a game on the ground. Auburn is giving up 88 yards a game on the ground. These are the number 4 and 6 teams against the rush in the SEC going in. Both of these teams have the ability to run the ball well. I think Georgia's offense is more balanced than Auburn. Gunnar Stockton has had a better first 5 ball games than Jackson Arnold at this point. And I think Georgia's run game is very, very good. And it's going to be interesting to see how this Auburn team responds to this Georgia offense coming in. But I think there's a lot of these. I think Auburn is best offensively when it's running the football this season. And I think Georgia is a more balanced team. And both of these teams are really good, against the run. And you look at who it is in these teams. And you look at Xavier Atkins, who's Auburn's leading tackler, the sophomore transfer from LSU, who's had just a fabulous season. Only player in FBS right now with over 29 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and an interception. And then you take a look at the defense for Georgia, and it's those 2 guys in the middle at linebacker and C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson. They're having monster seasons. So you look at linebackers and how important, and that's nothing new for either of these teams. And in this game, it's nothing new. So I think there's a lot of similarities for this one coming in. And Auburn, after being on the road for 2 weeks and an open week, I think is thrilled to be at home for 2 straight weeks against 2 very good opponents, Georgia this Saturday night and the Missouri next Saturday night.
Andy, what do you think? Let's just say Auburn plays a great game, maybe comes up a little short, maybe wins, either way. But for whatever reason, the offense doesn't look great. If it's like a grinded out 14-13 victory, based on the calls we've taken the last 2 weeks, I still think people are going to be disappointed even in victory. It's becoming like Florida Light. Like even if they win, it's not how they wanted to win, so they're not satisfied. What do you think they need to do offensively beyond just committing to the run, just to kind of appease some of the concerns about the long-term viability of this group?
Well, let me start at the first part of that question, Mac. I think a win against Georgia is an enormous for Auburn, regardless of how it happens. And I won't be shocked if it isn't a 14-13 or a game in the 20s on Saturday. I won't be shocked at all if that's the case on Saturday. I think an Auburn win, it doesn't cure anything, but it certainly goes a long way for Auburn. And it would be an enormous win for this team. It would be an enormous win for Hugh Freeze. So regardless of how it happens, if there's an Auburn win on Saturday night, I think a lot of Auburn, listen, there can be some folks that are never going to be satisfied with anything, all right? But I think a win, regardless of how it happens, is enormous for Auburn against the number 9 and 10 teams in the country, depending on which poll you look at. and beyond commit to the. I think the run game is just absolutely paramount for Auburn on Saturday. Does Auburn have to throw the football? Absolutely, it does. And I think that run game not only is Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobbett, it's Jackson Arnold as well. I think that's vitally important. It's something that Auburn did not do 2 weeks ago, nor really tried to do that much. And Mac, you were there. You saw the same game that I did, albeit from different vantage points. You on the west side, me on the east side, and Auburn just did not run the football at all at Texas A&M, and I think a lot of us kind of scratched our heads coming out of that, and Hugh Freeze has talked about it continually since that point. Auburn's offense has been at its best this season when it has run the football. And I'm not saying that you ignore that wide receiver room that you have that is very, very good, but I think when Auburn has been at its best of late, it has run the football, and I think it has to do that and find a way to do that successfully against a really good Georgia defense.
Andy Bertram, voice of the Auburn Tigers, with us. Thanks to our friends at Craneworks on the Higginbotham Hotline. I'll leave you with this, Andy. After an off week,
Yes.
How will the health of the team be different heading into this Georgia game than it was maybe going into the bye week?
I'm not sure it's a whole lot different. I mean, we know that Horatio Fields is out, so is Darrell Robinson. I think Jay Crawford is healthier. I think Champ Anthony is healthier. I think Auburn, for the most part, is a healthy football team, barring anything that happens in practice this week going in. So we know no Fields at wide receiver. We know no Darrell Robinson. And I don't know if we get Darrell back anytime soon. Same maybe for Horatio at this point. But I think Auburn is healthier, especially from a defensive standpoint, than it was coming out of that Texas A&M ball game. I think that's certainly good news for this Auburn team. Auburn needs everything it can against a really good Georgia ball club.
Absolutely. Andy, always great to visit with you. You know, each and every week you're brought to us by Craneworks.
And Rental Works offers a full line of rental equipment for any of your machinery needs. They offer operators for every type of equipment as well. They can supply the equipment you need plus the man to do the job. Go to craneworks.com for a quote in Birmingham, Nashville, Mobile, and Huntsville. Mac, I know we'll have you back on the plains this week, right?
Yes, sir.
Good. We look forward to having you guys down. Mac or Cole, where are you heading this week?
Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Outstanding. I'll have some gumbo, or where will you guys go? Where will you guys head Friday night? Do you know?
I don't.
Do you ever get a say-so in that matter?
No. Only when I decide to stay into my room and order food myself, which is becoming more often. But
There's a few good spots right next to the hotel. There's
the
pretty
sushi place right across the street. It's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that will not be
Well,
my call. So.
Okay. Well, I hope you guys are safe in your travels. Mac, we'll see you down here on Saturday.
Look forward to it.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, guys, take care. War Eagle.
War Eagle. Andy Bertram joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. As you guys know, Andy is brought to us each and every week by our friends at Craneworks. Speaking of game times, the game times for next week, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend, sort of announced yesterday by the SEC. You're, of course, still going to have options as to where certain games may land. Oklahoma at South Carolina. That's going to be your early game on ABC or the SEC Network. LSU at Vandy is going to be an early game on ABC or the SEC Network. Ole Miss at Georgia is going to be 2:30 on ABC. Are you going to be on that game?
We will be likely in Athens or Tuscaloosa.
Texas A&M at Arkansas is going to be your 2:30 ESPN game. Mississippi State at Florida is going to be your 3:15 SEC Network game. Tennessee at Alabama. I love seeing this game back at night, by the way.
So good.
6:30 on ABC. And Texas, Kentucky, Missouri at Auburn will be ESPN or the SEC Network. So your Saturday night SEC Network crew will either be in Auburn or Lexington.
That right.
You take your best guess. strong lead.
Take me home, Kentucky roads, to a place.
Feels like a safe wager.
You love the Lex. You driving?
No.
50 cents
I was
a
trying
mile.
to explain this to Roman last night. What is your cutoff? 5.5?
I get real uncomfortable after 5. 4 and under, lock. 4 to 5, dependent. Questionable. Over 5, I'm very uncomfortable.
I can't do over 5. Mine's about 3. 3.5 cutoff depends. We'll see. I don't know. 5 is a lot. That's
Confirm.
a lot of hours in the car. Okay,
Same page.
We got some folks on hold. We have some tweets coming in. You can be a part of the show, 800-239-9569. We'll come back, talk a little college football, and then Brent Rollins is going to join us a little bit later to help preview Auburn and Georgia. All of that's still coming up next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It's 8:19, Tuesday, October 7th. Brent Rollins of the See Ball Get Ball podcast with David Pollock is coming up in about 10 minutes. First, we'll talk some other college football. BR has been very patient in Vestavia, wants to chime in on Auburn. Welcome in, BR.
Yeah, there you go, Cole. Greg, I called you a couple of weeks ago, and was right before the Texas A&M game, and we talked. It was Friday, and you were really high on Hugh Freeze, and you've been consistent. You've always said he was a good coach. I'm 42 years old. I've been going to Auburn games since '88. I don't understand what. Give us a couple of things. Why is he such a good coach?
Which one of us are you talking to now? Just curious.
Greg.
Oh.
Because
I don't know.
Cole, I hear you. I hear doubt in your voice.
Well, hear me for 1 second.
Don't put context on me.
How do you feel about Nick Saban as a coach?
The best.
Right? Like amazing, right? Well,
right.
Hugh Freeze was Nick Saban intended or attempted to hire Hugh Freeze to call offense multiple times. So I mean that to me is pretty good endorsement, right? I mean
But as a head coach,
I understand that. I also think he did.
Program.
I think he inherited a difficult situation. I don't disagree with any of that. I think the roster was less than stellar in a lot of different places. The recruiting in 3 or 4 consecutive years had been less than stellar from a depth standpoint. The alignment, frankly, at Auburn is disastrous, or at least it was when he got there. I think he is in a tough situation. I think they definitely had games last year that were given away. The coach absolutely has to bear some of that responsibility. They also, I mean, if you point to a handful of games last year, how many games are different if they maybe make a field goal or two every once in a while? So like I'm not sitting there saying that he's the long-term, build a statue by any stretch, but I do think to an extent, I still think he's a good coach. I still think he knows how to call plays. I still think he knows how to score points. I just don't know about his quarterback, which to me from the get-go has been the biggest concern for me. I think he's a great runner. I just don't know for sure if he's a guy that's going to all of a sudden elevate to the top of the college football world.
But we sit there and we hear all week long, we're going to run the ball. We're going to run the ball. In the first opening drive against Texas A&M, he's throwing, passes out to the flats. Boom, boom, boom. Then we're behind the chains. I mean, he says one thing. We've got good running backs. We obviously got pass protection and a quarterback that's scared to death. Why doesn't he do what he's going to say he's going to do? I don't understand.
I will say, I think, and there's a lot of this that I'm in line with you on, BR, but I would say this, and we've heard a lot of coaches say it. When you give the quarterback the option to hand it off or throw it, what do you think he's going to do?
Throw it. Be a hero.
So, and that you have heard Freeze sort of hint to a couple of times this year of maybe we just need to call runs and run them. And I think that's what he's saying is I probably need to quit giving my quarterback the option all the time to pull the ball and throw it, whether that's spinning it out on the edge, whether it's throwing it down the field. Sometimes you just got to say, hey, we're running inside zone. I don't really care about everything else. You need to hand the ball off. And I don't think that happens a lot in this offense, me personally.
All right. Well, I'll be there Saturday. Maybe it'll change.
Thanks for the call.
At least he'll be there. I mean, that's dedication.
Yeah. He might be sitting on his hands, but
I think it's just way too early in the year to just all of a sudden concede defeat and go surrender Cobra. This is exactly where I thought they'd be after 5 games. I think it's the same spot that Cole thought they'd be after 5 games. Like, this is not that surprising.
I do think, though, Greg, from the BR Auburn fan perspective, maybe not near as many are in that negative of a place right now. I don't even think it's as much of the performances that are frustrating as in some of the things being said and some of the things being heard feel the same.
Fair.
As he stated, you said quarterback. And I think there are a lot of Auburn fans that are going to say, okay, but that quarterback was chosen. And quarterbacks have to be coached. So it can't just be the quarterback's not good or he hasn't had a good quarterback. You got to coach the quarterbacks.
For sure.
We've seen quarterbacks be average and then be coached into being pretty good.
Yes.
I mean, Mac Jones did not look great at the end of the season in 19, did he? Not great. I'm not saying he was terrible, but he wasn't great.
Against Auburn, he wasn't. And then he was pretty good good against Michigan.
He helped the receiver win the Heisman Trophy the next year. So, I mean, certain quarterbacks have started out average or not good or bad and
Right.
gotten good because they've been coached and they got more experience. And I think there's a part too. I mean, I'll take a little bit of credit with us collectively. The things were pointed out that were going to be his issues. And they are essentially the same. Like, what is a new issue for Jackson Arnold that you didn't see last year? You don't have to answer.
It's all the same.
There's not one. So I think that's also frustrating to some Auburn fans of we knew what was coming in. It was going to have to be morphed, molded a little bit. And, the ball putty is still just sitting there. The ball clay is just sitting there. Like,
right.
Just in a mound. Like it wasn't, you didn't turn the wheel on. You didn't put the water on it. You didn't have your ghost moment where you guys made the pot together. It hadn't happened yet. You're just letting it sit there.
Right.
You got to start pumping that pedal. Put some water on that thing.
Yep.
Make it different. And it just hasn't been. And that's where I think a lot of people's frustration. I don't think a lot of people are frustrated necessarily at the record. It's easy to be frustrated with that, and I get that.
Sure.
But I think it's the extracurriculars, it's the others, it's the parentheses, the asterisks of it. They all feel the same.
Fair.
And that's where people say, yeah, they're growing a little bit tired of it. Now, the Xavier Chaplin thing is a little bit different. I would not categorize that into a lot of the other things that have happened or been brought up. But I think there are multiple limbs to this that are probably never going to be discussed publicly. I don't think I should, so I'm probably not going to. But this is not exactly as it appears. I'll just say that. This is a little deeper. And as I said earlier in the show, I'll give Hugh Freeze a little extra credit for that. Because I'm not sure I would have handled this the way that Hugh Freeze is. Not in today's college football. No. But that's his team and his player, and I feel like he did his player right in this. I really do. You can say, we had people tweeting in earlier. Kid Bama Kid tweeted in. Hugh Freeze shouldn't be sharing his players' personal business. Here, Kid Bama Kid. Hugh Freeze should not tell the media about the guy's personal issues. When it's presented the way it was, yeah. And when it's in defense of his play and you're taking it in the chest for that, then yeah, you do.
Right.
So, I mean, it's him saying that we're going to try to alter it and help. Now, how he found out? What was it like going to practice in Tuscaloosa every Thursday, Greg?
When we were going on the road?
No. Since you've been an analyst covering a game. And Nick Saban lets you come watch practice on Thursday. Not now, because I have been to a Thursday practice. That was a Friday practice. Now it's different.
Right.
Friday practice.
Yes.
And about 30% of the practice was what it was about 80% of the practice under Saban. And what was that? How did it sound?
Like a game?
And did they run plays?
Usually.
Oh. So let me get this straight. Indoor facilities have sound systems?
Confirm.
And there are companies that make soundtracks of either real or orchestrated crowd noise.
Confirm. Some of those get played in stadium.
You didn't have to do that. And would I also be correct in some of these indoor facilities can play these soundtracks very loudly?
Usually.
No.
Telling you, it's crazy.
So let me walk way out on a limb here.
Whoa, hang on. Easy.
Just get ready. This is high-risk territory here. Is there a possibility that in an indoor facility in this state, very loud, either altered, fake, or recreated or recorded real crowd noise had been played in an indoor facility during what was attempted to be live simulated game snaps?
Yes.
Get out of here.
I'm telling you, this is crazy.
Look how crowd noise.
Look how loud.
Look how pumped in noise.
Take that right there and do with it what you will. I will not make any more commentary on it. And we'll be back right after this. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, Tuesday, October 7th. And just in case that was taken out of context in our last segment, I did want to clarify that I believe / know that Auburn has speakers that are loud and do play crowd noise in practice. So that was not directed at the way in which the message boards folks would have taken it from me, because we know what that usually is in the direction that usually goes.
Heck yeah.
So y'all don't do that today, because I know what you're going to be trying to do. We know what Game Day Men's Health does for you. If you're feeling on edge, lacking energy, getting poor sleep, Game Day Men's Health can help. If you want to lose weight, Game Day Men's Health can help. All you do is go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today, sign up for the free consultation, free PSA test, free testosterone test. They'll tell you where your baseline health is. Then they present all the options. Minimal upfront cost from the programs they offer. I'm going to say that again. Minimal upfront cost from the programs they offer at Game Day Men's Health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now and just sign up for the free consultation. Why not? See what they can do for you. Holistic approach to health and wellness, friendly staff, not going to try to pressure you into things that you don't need. Save 10% on everything they do by mentioning Mac and Cube when you walk in the front door. And the office is now open in Trustville. Let's go to the Higginbotham hotline. Brent Rollins joining us now from the See Ball, Get Ball podcast, the actual calm voice of reason as it pertains to football on the See Ball, Get Ball podcast, being yelled at usually by David Pollock, here to discuss some college football news and notes. What do you see, Brent, for these Auburn Tigers against these Georgia Bulldogs as inherent advantages for Auburn in this matchup this weekend?
Receivers versus the DBs. That's especially in one-on-one, if they get one-on-one matchups on the outside, and they tried to do that against Texas A&M pretty consistently, but just weren't successful. And that's, if you look at Georgia and how they've played over this season and a weakness of the defense, it's in the secondary, and they've lost like what Brazel at Tennessee did to them. So yeah, that would be the area that I think is the definitive advantage for Auburn.
What do you think about the ability to hold up in protection against a group that has not rushed the passer? I think this is a fascinating conversation. Is the pressure rate allowed for Auburn versus the pressure rate applied from Georgia, both among the nation's worst? What do you think wins out there?
So interesting, when you have watching, and I rewatched Auburn over the past few days, it looks to me as much that it's a mental thing, not necessarily that it's a physical thing. Whereas with Georgia, I think that might be a physical thing. I don't know that they have the dudes that can actually have the speed and explosions to bend the edge and create those opportunities in pass rush opportunities. So with the bye week, you never know. Like, look what we saw from Florida a week ago. They come out a completely different team after the bye week. You get those things right in the bye week for Auburn, and maybe you see a completely different animal there. But I think they're going to be able to protect Jackson Arnold just because, one, Georgia, I don't think they have the guys, but also, two, like how they try and what they do things with the rush, it's becoming predictable is the wrong word, but stuff that teams can practice and be ready for.
I want to ask you this, Brent, if you think that Auburn can overcome this. One of the issues what I came away from watching Georgia's defense last week, and you can look at numbers, you can look at tape, whatever you want. What you just said about the defense is real, and I don't know if there are many ways to circumvent it. I do think some more pressure can be created, but obviously you're going to have to change some structure of what you do. But that defense still closes space extremely fast. It's one of the things that I don't think they get enough credit for, and one of the things that they do. I think they're going to show Auburn low box count numbers, attract the run, and then flash enough defenders into the box to limit that. Now, that comes down to the backs and maybe some of the design of what can be done after the fact. But if Georgia can neutralize the run that way, what would Auburn's answers then be if that's happening?
So first off, I'm 100% on point and agree with that. After the Tennessee game, I was like, hey, Georgia, if you're not good at rushing the passer, just don't do it. Maybe just rush three, give those guys a free go wherever they want to go, and then rally to the football like you're talking about. If that's the one thing I think that Auburn can do that they really haven't done since game one is bring in the quarterback run game and the quarterback read game to stay sort of ahead of the sticks, stay efficient, keep the ball, that kind of thing. Jackson Arnold, I think, had like 80 yards on design runs, close to 80 yards on design runs in the first game. He's had about 50 since then. And given the defenses that they played at Oklahoma and Texas A&M and being on the road, I think that's kind of one thing where Freeze may have held that in his back pocket. I bet they get back to a lot of that this week against Georgia.
What do you think about them kind of holding up front defensively? Is this something that can continue on with how they've played up to this point?
Speaking of who?
Auburn's defensive line.
I think so, yes. I very much think so. One of the things that Georgia's done this year that to me has been a massive differentiator from years past is the diversity that they've added in the run game. Like the last 2 years, they've been 2/3, 1/3 inside zone, and then some gap type scheme stuff. They've across the board added a lot of different run game schemes that to me make their run game way more difficult to attack or to stop. And also the element of Gunnar Stockton being, I think he's a fullback playing quarterback. So like his element to just go get 6, go get maybe 15 if it's there. I think Auburn, that's their strength, and they're going to very much hold up. But if Georgia has success, it's because of the diversity in the run game they've added.
We're talking with Brent Rollins from the See Ball Get Ball podcast with David Pollock. You can find that on YouTube wherever you listen to your podcasts. I want to move off that game. I want your sort of 1,000-foot view of two teams that I think some people are still a little bit back and forth on. I'm not saying that I don't think people believe that they're good. I just think that some people believe that they're great, deep playoff run contenders, and some people still look at them as kind of, I'm not real sure. First would be Ole Miss. Like 1,000-foot view of Ole Miss, where are you on that football team right now?
They have their quarterback. That to me matters more than anything. And Chambliss is the guy. And the biggest reason I think he's the guy is he's winning from the pocket. And that's something that in Lane Kiffin's offense, like traditionally he creates the windows. And now when he can just win in the straight drop back game with Chambliss and add the QB run element that he adds, that to me gives them some staying power. So that's where I am with Ole Miss. And plus defensively, they're getting better each week. Like, and they have guys that, sort of the skill part of it, the height, weight, speed part that maybe you don't know as much, but those guys and athletes in general get better. And I think I see them getting better each week defensively. All
right. So next, Texas A&M. Some people are looking at Texas A&M saying great, deep playoff run contender. Some people saying, I'm not sure I'm sold on multiple facets of this football team. Your 1,000-foot view of the Aggies.
They play so fast on defense. Like just fly around. York is unreal good, and that to me is going to give them staying power no matter what. The thing that is the elevator for me with them is their level of efficiency. That's the thing with Marcel Reed that I'm watching him early this season. They're pushing the ball down the field and average depth of target rate as much as anyone in the country. If he can add and they bring back some of the RPO game, bring back some of the efficiency with that, I think they can elevate to even further heights. Because the two guys on the outside and then the backs, like those guys are big time playmakers, and that's going to keep them in games. That plus the defense.
Kind of amazed at how few people are kind of coming around on A&M. If you put a Longhorn on the side of their helmet, everyone would be like, "Oh my gosh, look how good!"
Oh boy.
It's unbelievable. They're legit. I mean, they really are. They're a very, very good football team. However, they do welcome in a Florida team this week that I think has kind of found themselves a bit, and I think this will be a tough one for A&M. I believe it. I think Florida matches up pretty well. So how do you see that one going this weekend?
Well, Florida did something this past week that it was kind of a question where everybody who watches Florida is like, hey, that Jaden Ball kid, he's really good. He forces tackles at a rate like right behind Ahmad Hardy. He just wasn't getting the ball. Florida before the Texas game was, I think, 63rd in the Power 4 in terms of run percentage. Like they were a heavy throw team early and then come out of the gate. And I think Ball gets like 8 or 9 carries on the first drive. Like when they get back to that and the balance, and then you add in Dallas Wilson as the true freshman freak show receiver, like that changes the complete dynamic for them as a team, I think. And there's somebody who they have the talent and they can beat anybody. It's just a matter of do they play consistently enough, do the right things that they did in that Texas game.
Brent Rollins of the See Ball Get Ball podcast joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline with David Pollock. You can find that podcast wherever you listen to yours, also on YouTube. You just mentioned a team that I'd also like to get your opinion on. I think I'm a little further ahead on this team than a lot of other folks, but Missouri, compared to the Alabama's, which they're going to get this week, Texas A&M's, Ole Miss, the teams that we've talked about towards the top of the SEC. Where is Missouri in your eyes?
Right there, it's just this week we find out a lot. And you want to see it this week because this matchup, I think, plays perfectly into their hands. Alabama's had two sort of tough games back-to-back. If people think Vanderbilt wasn't a tough game, they're crazy. But in terms of what Missouri does versus what Alabama doesn't do, it sets up well for them. Missouri in terms of – and Hardy. And like, that guy is unreal. And to me, he could put himself in a top of or 1, 2, 3 guy in the Heisman this weekend because Alabama allows explosive runs at a higher rate than almost anyone in the Power Four. And they are Missouri and how they run their scheme and the outside zone scheme, and they've added some counter elements. They've added some other elements to it that you haven't seen in the past. If they can get the run game going, Bo Bueller with his legs, I think Missouri can do some damage, and looking forward to seeing this weekend just to see if they are truly real.
Be fascinating to see. I do like Missouri's offense a lot. I think that's a good group, and I think it'll be a good challenge for the Tide. Looking at some of the other matchups this weekend, like, is there any reason why LSU needs to be concerned? Is there any reason why some of these other teams need to be concerned that might be a slight favorite?
I think LSU should always be concerned just because they haven't played well at all offensively, and also because of who they're playing. When you play against Lenore Sellers, he might decide to put on the cape and run for 150 and throw for 200 and just win the game by himself. But LSU's defense is playing so well that I tend to lean in that regard. And the bye week, much like potentially for Auburn and much like it did for Florida, I think the bye week was perfect time for them. You'd like to see Nussmeier be able to push the ball down the field a little bit more so. Tennessee with Arkansas coming to town, that's Arkansas's played bad. Their defense has played bad, but they have a complete overhaul of their coaching staff and maybe a new energy from them because Taylor Green, as much like Sellers, can win the game by himself. So those two games to me are the most interesting games just to see if the home teams take care of business.
Brent Rollins joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline from the C-Ball Get Ball podcast. I'm going to make an assumption here, and that is that you probably have a small collection of teams that are a notch ahead of everybody else in college football right now, probably Miami, Ohio State, Oregon. If that's the case, where and how close is Alabama when you put those three teams together and look at all of college football? How does the Crimson Tide fall into the pecking order or collection of teams, top shelf, next shelf, so on and so forth for you?
I definitely think they're in that next tier. And the only way to me that they get into a higher tier is if they can find some run game consistency to complement the throw game. I think their defense is what it's going to be, and I don't think their defense is going to be much like Georgia's defense. I don't know how many guys until younger guys start maybe playing more, playing better that they have there, but their secondary is good. But to me, their run game, if they can complement the passing game and get more efficient with the running game, then they can creep into that level. But right now, I still think they're a notch below those other three that you just mentioned.
What do you think's holding them back?
That's a great question because I think one of the things is, like, for me, run game is always about diversity, especially in today's football, because you're not just going to maul teams, old school. And they've gotten away from some of the diversity that they had with Milroe because Milroe was obviously a threat in the run game. So figure out ways to add different elements to the run game and use the receivers, I think, and use Bernard as decoys in that regard because Proctor's able to move people if you can get them in the right situation. They got guys that can move guys. It's just consistently you don't see it.
Hey, listen, Brent, we appreciate the conversation, man. It's great catching up with you. Enjoy y'all's work over there on the C-Ball Get Ball podcast. Like I said, you're one of the most level-headed voices in college football, and I have an appreciation for it.
Thank you. It's for me, the excitement is perfectly like think about Gunnar Stockton this past weekend getting the QB counter sort of power lead and perfectly designed and run. That to me is the exciting part of football when you can mentally and execute and do those things. I love that about this game.
Well, if perfect execution in the run game gets you excited, you don't get excited a whole lot these days. So not a ton of it going around.
Hard to find.
Hey, we appreciate the
Very
time,
true.
though, man.
Very
Look forward
true.
to doing it again soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
There you go. Brent Rollins of the See Ball, Get Ball podcast with David Pollock. Find that on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts as well. Some interesting thoughts there. And let's begin. We don't have to dive into it completely, but just begin. Surface layer preview of Alabama Mizzou. We'll do that next right here on Jocks. How many teams do you guys think in the history of the Southeastern Conference have defeated 3 ranked conference opponents in a 3-week span? No open date.
I'm going to say
3 consecutive ranked conference opponents
Right.
defeated in a 3-week span without a bye
Without
in
a
the
bye.
history of the SEC.
I'm going to say it's happened 7 times.
You guys were probably right in between. It's 4.
4?
Correct. Do you know the relevance of that?
Because Alabama's playing their third-ranked conference opponent.
In 3 weeks
Correct.
without a bye this
Correct.
week. So that'll happen on Saturday. Yes. So we'll have that, and we'll talk about it in just a moment. Tuesday, October the 7th, right here on Jocks. Listen online, jocksfm.com, apps in your app store. Also, watch live on YouTube every morning, or just tell your home smart speaker to impact the Jock skill.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champion of GMC dealers. They've won 8 times, including 5 years in a row. Thank you to the great state of Alabama for making them number 1 again, and really for anybody here in the Southeast. Thanks for buying, because they are selling more vehicles than anyone in the Southeast. That's why they can give away vehicles at the best possible price. Their margins are slim because they sell so many. Like a GMC Sierra 1500 SLT. It's a 4x4, beautiful vehicle, $67,700, what you pay elsewhere. With Bill Smith, you're getting it for under $53,000. It's $52,770. That's $15,000 off the sticker price. It's deals like that keep people coming back. That's why 75% of their business is repeat customers. It's because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take the short drive up to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online, have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
When you look at this matchup, Greg, what are the first things that come to mind as far as Alabama having success against Missouri or not having success against Missouri?
I think Alabama's, quote, challenges stopping the run have been kind of self-inflicted. I think a lot of it has to do, frankly, with the defensive backs and their fits in the run game. If you watch them, there's a handful of times in which those guys don't fit it appropriately. There's a handful of times in which a corner doesn't pursue the run at the right angle or what have you. The safeties don't fit it very well. That happened twice against Vandy, and they got. But if you look at how they adjusted and maybe backing things up a little bit and just kind of softening up just a hair and let those guys see and play instinctively a couple more times, it worked out quite well. Now, what does that do? It leaves you potentially victim to play action if your safeties are a little bit deep and then they come down crashing upon the presence of a ball in the belly of a back. That can be difficult, but I think a lot of Alabama's, quote, issues stopping the run can be fixed. I think they're okay up front. They're not getting just mauled. Cole, I mean, you've watched them. How are they getting mauled, or are they not having guys in the right gaps?
No, it's mostly guys not being in the right places.
And that, to me, is fixable. If you're getting mauled, that's concerning. That's what would worry me. But if you're not in the right place, we can fix that. So I actually like their chances this weekend of being a little better against the run than some people might allude to. I do think it's a much tougher back to handle, and you're going to have to tackle at angles. You're going to have to do a great job tackling with your second-level defenders and your third-level defenders. But tackling, to me, is the biggest thing this weekend. I think they'll fit it right. It's just, can they get them on the ground? That's a tall order.
I'll go a little bit of a different direction with you on that. And I do agree with you that parts of it have been improved. I think you're seeing more younger players begin to step up and help the front seven. You also saw a couple of different defenses last week. There was one defense Kane ran where you had 2 defensive linemen on the field. I think there were 3 linebackers, and then the rest of the players on the field were DBs. So he's still looking at different personnel groupings in ways to offset that. And by the way, that ended up being a pretty big third down stop on that play. I think the eyes are going to be more important than anything for Alabama's defense in this game, because you are going to get more pre and post snap east-west movement than you have seen from 3 times as much as you've seen from any other team.
Right.
Vandy gave you a little bit of it, but you're going to get splitters with jet sweeps the opposite direction and then crossers in front of that. It's a lot. You're going to get outside zone blocking to the right and the running backs running counter to the left, with a tight end coming pulling and a jet motion acting as the second puller behind him. And it is, Kirby Moore does as good a job as anyone of clouding the picture of what is happening with movement, I think, maybe than anybody else in college football. I'd put him up against anybody. And so managing that, Greg, knowing where to be with your eyes and where your eyes take you, I think going to be key for Bama.
Yeah, don't disagree. You got to be really disciplined and, like I said, tackle.